Welcome back to the IE427 garage, everybody. Let me get some lights on here. Oh, and would you look at that? We now got a door that opens. Alright, so I think what we're going to do today, because I had one of you ask about how the rear view mirror, the dash mounted rear view mirror, is installed. I'm going to quickly go over that. I'm not going to take the mirror out and reinstall it, but I'll quickly go through how we install it. It's basically how it's lined out in the Factory 5 assembly manual, but they also give you two different ways to mount it, two different sets of hardware in the box, and so I want to make sure that you all know how I mount it. The other thing is once you kind of put a call out about needing something, the Factory 5 community and those of you that watch our videos are very quick to respond. I have gotten a bunch of this edge guard in both white and black, and I ordered an actual box of it. So I found a new old stock box of the material right here online, and so I ordered this up, and so now I've got 100 feet of it here, plus what I've been receiving in the mail from former customers and friends and everything else. So just know I appreciate this. I will never have to look for this stuff ever again. I've got enough of this stuff to last me a lifetime now. So let me get all set up. I think the other thing that we're going to do, so I think what else I'm going to do is I'm going to, rather than working on the front end of the car, which was my plan for today, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to get the wind wings and the sun visors out of the box. I'm going to get them all pre-assembled, and we'll probably install those on the car, and that should pretty much finish up the interior of the car. And then probably the next video we'll go ahead and do the stuff that I was discussing on the front end of the car. So let me go ahead, get all that stuff pulled out. We'll kind of go through the parts and pieces. I'll show you how it all assembles, and then we'll go ahead and install those on the car. All right, so I'm going to show you how I mount the rear view mirror into one of the Mark IVs. It's a variation of what is laid out in the instruction manual from Factory 5, but I kind of do my own thing on how I mount it. They give you two sets of hardware. One set of hardware comes with the actual mirror itself, and it is just a couple of stainless steel Phillips head screws, and you can see them mounted in the mirror right there. And they're about 3/4 of an inch long. So you drill an 1/8 of an inch hole in the fiberglass, and then you install those screws, and that holds it in. What Factory 5 does as well is they give you a set of the same type of, I think they're number 10, stainless steel oval head screws, but they're about 1.25 to 1.5 inches long, and they give you these plastic spacers. And what they tell you to do in the instruction manual is to insert those plastic spacers in between the dash hoop, the 3/4 inch square dash hoop, and the body, and then thread those screws down through so that you sandwich the mirror, the actual body of the car, and that top hoop all together with those screws. I did that when I first built my car. The problem was that in different situations, heat situations basically, those little nylon spacers would squeak between the body, and it just drove me nuts. And so when I took my car and had it painted, because I drove my car many years in gel coat, when I took my car and had it painted, I had Jeff fill those holes. And then when I was going to remount my mirror, I ended up with my mirror up on the hardtop, so it was never an issue again. But I've since done every other car this way, where I only go through the fiberglass. Now, how I find center is I wait purposely until the body of the car is painted, because I want the center of that post for the mirror on the center of the stripe. And the center of the stripe is going to be dictated by whoever you have paint your car. Because the scoop on the hood is going to dictate where on the hood the center of the stripe goes, and so that carries through to the actual body of the car, and in the back of the car it'll be dictated by the center of the license plate light and the trunk handle. So if you arbitrarily drill holes and mount this beforehand, you may not be in the center of the stripe. And that's one of those things my OCD would just not allow me to do. So what I do is I take a piece of blue painter's tape. I'm going to do it off to the side here. And I approximate where that center bar is. So that 3/4 inch dash hoop. And I put a piece of tape right here. Right? So pretend that's in the center of the stripe. And then what I do is I take a second piece of painter's tape and I put it here on the front. And all that piece of painter's tape on the front is going to do is it's going to allow me to take my combination square, find the center of the stripe, measure an equal distance from that mark to each of the mounting holes for the mirror, and then make my marks. So let me grab a pen. I'll show you exactly how we would do that if the mirror hadn't already been installed. All right, so I already know that the center of these two holes are approximately 1.75 inches back from the face of the body here to the center of the holes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to preset my combination square so that the end of it here sticks out 1.75 inches. And then I'm going to take it up to the car body. I'm going to hold it against the front of the dash here, or actually the body above the dash. And then using this as my guide, I'll mark the end of the square here and across with my pen. And that will give me a center line on where to mount the actual mirror. Then, like I said, I'll find the center line of the stripe. So let's take the pen, and I'm going to just give this a wild guess on where the line is. So let's say the line is going to be right here. And let's say my center mark is right here. And I'm going to measure for the two holes, and then I'm going to make my mounting hole spot here and here. Now I'm going to drill out both of those marks with 1/8 inch drill bit, and then I'm going to mount the mirror to that. Now once you've got your holes drilled, go ahead and take your tape off because you're not going to need it anymore. Position your mirror for the last time and install it. It's really pretty easy. Now I install it without the actual mirror itself on here, and if you loosen the screw that holds it to the stem, you can loosen that screw until it's just maybe a half a thread or a full thread in, and the mirror assembly will kind of just pop off. It's almost like it's spring loaded. But be careful as you pull it off to hold it on both sides, the top and the bottom, right here where it attaches to the mirror itself, because it's going to want to spring open and then everything's going to want to fall apart. So if you hold it together with your hands and pull it off this way, you can just put it aside, get that pedestal mounted first, and then reassemble your mirror the same way you took it apart. All right, so that's how I install the rear view mirror in these cars. So just remember to be really careful because you've got a painted surface now and you don't want to screw it up. Now, I'm going to show you inside the new office. Mrs. IE427 is working on what she's going to cover the walls with, and so we just got a nice coat of primer on everything right now. As soon as she's got something picked out, I'll update you guys on the other channel. Now, all right, I see a lot of people package their wind wings and their sun visors together. Now that's fine, but make sure you keep the hardware separate, because the hardware for the wind wings and the sun visors are completely different. So the sun visor hardware are going to have these slotted brackets right here that attach them to the mounts that screw to the windshield. The wind wings are going to have slotted mounts, but those slots are on the end. So you can see right here, here's one of the slots on the end of the actual bracket. So don't mix these up. There's a lot of hardware in them that's the same, that carry over between the two, but you don't want to mix them up and then go, oh, now what do I do? where the hell does this part go? So keep them separate so that as you install them or you put them together, you're not mixing up hardware and finding out that the wind wings now fit on the top of the windshield instead of the side, and vice versa for the sun visors. All right, it's already after supper. I've got the lights off in the shop. You can see it's pretty much pitch black outside. I'm just finishing up getting these wind wings and sun visors put together. So I've got all the hardware on. So I've got all the mounts for the wind wings together, and you got to make sure that you've got the Factory 5 logo in the position you want. I always have it facing out, not in. And then install your brackets accordingly so that the set screws are going to be on the inside of the car, not the outside. And then same thing with the sun visors. You want to make sure you get the brackets that are going to attach to the sun visor clips in the appropriate position. Now you can use them the way that Factory 5 has you mount them, or Jeff Kleiner does have a mod for this where you mount these offset brackets in the top to the top of the windshield. Now we're going to mount these just the way they are prescribed in the Factory 5 instruction manual, but either way works. If you're going to run a hard top or a soft top, you have to mount them the way Factory 5 instructs you to. Otherwise, the hard top or the soft top will not install properly. So I'm going to probably call it for tonight. I'll be back out here tomorrow night. I tell you, having the office completed as far as it is sure made it nice, because I was able to sit down at the table here, get the wind wings and the sun visors put together. But I'll catch up with you guys tomorrow, and we'll get these all installed onto the car. I've also got the mesh for the front outside drying. I painted those earlier today, and I've got the side view mirrors that are going to mount to the windshield posts out as well, so we'll probably end up mounting those too. All right, it is the next day, and I am working on getting the wind wings and the sun visors installed in the car. Now, if you notice, I have both of the brackets here facing up, but the hardware that holds them together is facing opposite of one another. So what I like to do is I like to get the acorn nut side of the sun visors facing towards the center of the car. What I found is that it just makes it easier for me if I have to adjust them while they're on the car, because I can reach in with a wrench to hold the acorn nut, and I can use the flathead screwdriver. I have like a micro screwdriver or a mini screwdriver to tighten and loosen the actual screw that goes through, and then adjust them where I need to be and then tighten them down. And I usually use like the wrench to do the final tighten, hold it with the screwdriver, you know, 1/8 to 1/4 turn to tighten those things in place so they don't move. Or it takes, you know, quite a bit of effort to get them to move. Because in most situations, the sun visors are going to be all the way up. If there's no top on the car, you're basically using the sun visors as wind deflectors to keep the air from, you know, hitting you dead in the face. This way, when the wind hits the front of the windshield, it goes up and over you with the help of the sun visors to get it up and over your head, if you're a tall person. On the wind wings, I always take the hardware and I run the screw down from the top. And I always stress this to you when you're mounting hardware on the car, like for chassis work, chassis stuff. Always push your screw or your bolt in through the top so the nut's on the bottom. That way, if the nut were ever to come loose, the screw will actually keep whatever it is in place, hopefully, and in this case, not allow the wind wing to just float away. Now, we'll get into this a little bit later when I put the side mirrors on. The other thing is these wind wings are only held on with these two set screws, this set screw here and this set screw down here. And so from time to time, you may want to check just to make sure that those things haven't worked their way loose and allowed the wind wing to start moving, because a lot of folks are using those rear view mirrors or side view mirrors that attach to the wind wings. There's a problem with that because if you lose the wind wing, you lose the mirror too. Now, if you're lucky enough that it just falls down and nobody runs it over, hey, great. But if they do, now you're out a set of wind wings because you can't buy just one, and you're out a side view mirror, which you can just buy one of. So in this case, we're not going to be running the side view mirrors that mount directly to the wind wings, but we have used them in the past. I don't have any problems with them, but just be careful to always make that part of your yearly maintenance to go ahead and check that those wind wings are, in place and secure, not going to go anywhere. Now over here on the car, I've already mounted the clips that are going to allow us to mount our sun visor. As I stated before, I mount these according to the Factory 5 assembly manual. That is, the clips face out, meaning they come out this way, and down. And that allows you, if in sometime in the future you decide to run a soft top or a hard top on the car, you're not going to have to redo these and find another way to have sun visors, because they'll already be ready to accept a hard top or a soft top. The mod that you can do that Jeff Kleiner came up with, it basically uses square nuts that will go in through the center here. You can see there's a widened opening here, and you'll slide those down, and then you'll mount the brackets for the sun visors to those with just longer 632 screws. Now you'll have to measure and cut each screw, and then those will fasten to the top. Again, you won't be able to run these if you're going to run a soft top or a hard top. But a lot of guys have some concerns about the screws that mount the clips contacting the glass. Now I can say that in the earlier years of Factory 5, that was a concern because the screws were generally long, and Factory 5 was not manufacturing their own windshield at the time. So over the years, Factory 5 has kind of refined the length of the screws and the amount of clearance that there is between the windshield glass and the windshield frame. And I haven't seen any cracked glass from that. I've seen cracked glass from other stuff, but I've never seen cracked glass recently from a screw that made contact with the glass. So keep that in mind. Now, we mounted these with some blue thread locker, so I wanted to make sure that these never come loose, because again, you don't want to lose one of these sun visors while you're driving. So these clips went in with the 632, or I think they're 632 screws that are provided with the sun visor kit, and they're going to mount the sun visor to the clips with set screws. So again, you're going to want to make sure that those set screws are part of your yearly maintenance on your car, just so that you don't use one of these. The fear that I always have with one of these is if it comes loose while you're driving, whether you're the driver or you're the passenger, and this thing comes loose, the sun visor's here, your face is here. That's going to hurt when it hits you. So again, make sure that those things become part of your yearly maintenance so that they stay secure and stay in place. And there you go. The sun visors are in. They're stiff, but that's on purpose. We want those to stay in position. When we've got them in the upright position, we want them to stay in position when they're in the down position. Now, depending on which way you orient these on the mounting brackets, now depending on how you orient the brackets that attach to the actual mounting brackets, you can get more motion either towards the windshield or straight up. Now, I like them more when you can get a little bit more straight up, because again, I'm a taller person, and so the more air that we can get over the top of the driver and the passenger, for me anyways, the better. I'm going to grab the wind wings and get those in place, and we'll show you how those are going to be positioned. All right, so this is what I use to line up the wind wings. And I set them probably higher than most, but there's a reason for that. So I set them as high as I can get them and still have the set screw on the inside engaged. and be able to lock down on the windshield post. What I use as my guide is there are two holes right here. You can see the one where my finger is, and then there's one that I've covered up halfway right there. And those holes are carryovers to basically a hardtop for the car. So way back when AC manufactured these cars, they had a soft top option, and there was a buckle clasp that went into those two holes. That's my understanding. That's where I've seen them attached in the... I use those as my guide as far as the height that I'm going to mount the wind wings. And I mount them high because, for instance, on this side, it's not as much of a concern as it is on the driver's side, because the wind wing can only come in so far before it makes contact with the steering wheel. And it makes contact with the steering wheel before it'll make contact with the body down here. On the other side, the wind wing can actually be brought in far enough that it may do damage to the body if you have a passenger in the car who's never dealt with these before and decides to slam this over as far as they can and then have the bottom of the wind wing make contact with the paint. So the way I adjust them, they're pretty well clear all the way through their sweep so they won't make contact with the body. If you mount them farther down, what you'll find is that when they're pushed all the way in, or the passenger, when it's pushed all the way in, it'll end up contacting the body right about here. And in my opinion, that's bad. So I just assume mount them a little bit higher and kind of sidestep any body damage in the future. That way, even if you have an unconscious passenger that doesn't know any better and tries to adjust the thing in, you're not going to have any issues with it hitting the paint. All right, so the last thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to mount our side view mirrors. Now, we got what are called peep mirrors, and these are typically used in like hot rods, you know, custom hot rods and what have you. So these are stainless steel, and they mount to the windshield post the same way that the wind wings mount to the windshield post. And we got one that is standard flat glass, and we got one that is convex glass. So the flat glass one is going to go on the driver's side. The convex one is going to go on the passenger side. So let me get these mounted up, and I'll show you what they look like. All right, so there you go. The wind wings are in, the sun visors are in, and now we've got our peep mirrors mounted. Now I did mount these as high as I could get them. And again, I'm trying to get them for better functionality for the driver. Because if the mirror, for instance, is mounted down here or, you know, back here, what ends up happening is all you get a view of is right here on the car, because the car has really wide hips. So the higher up on the car you can get the mirror, the better. The rear view mirror works fine just where it is, because it gives you a view straight down the back of the car. But then again, you know, you can just turn your head to make sure that you're getting a good look in the lane next to you before you go ahead and merge. But they're in, they're looking pretty good, and I think that's going to do it for this time. Like I said, I probably wouldn't have done this stuff now, but since I had a question regarding the rear view mirror of the car and how I mount it, I figured I might as well take a step back, kind of go over that real quick, and then get the remainder of the stuff done for the interior of the car. With the completion of that stuff, the interior is done. The only thing I'm going to be doing on the interior from here on out is, you know, vacuuming the carpet and, you know, cleaning everything up. But we'll probably get on the front of the car the next time that we pick up the camera. I already have the front of the car up in the air, so I already got the bridge jack underneath it, and we've got it up in the air to where we can pull the wheels off. So we've got a bunch of stuff to finish up here, including the heights valve. So I'm going to have to go to the hose shop and pick up some hoses for that. So if you are enjoying the content here, as always, please do the like, the share, the subscribe, all that kind of stuff. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.